Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, today is the 5th of June 2013. My name is Arjen Lamey, also known as the Artrix, and I'm bringing you episode number 4 of the Artrix Art and Vlog Show. In this episode, I'll be showing the time lapses of two drawings that are actually commissions that I've been working on. And yes, that's right, I do commissions. I do them mostly for fun, they're not a serious source of income, but yes, it's much better to charge a little bit of money opposed to just accepting requests and that sort of things. Back in the early days, I actually accepted things called art trades, which were essentially a I scratch your back, you scratch mine sort of deal. The problem with this sort of system usually comes from the other side of the deal I have experienced. Initially, it seemed like a nice idea. You ask me to draw something you want me to draw, and I draw something I want you to draw. My primary mistake here is that I was usually the one drawing something first. And a lot of these people are actually pretty fucking impatient when it comes to this sort of thing. Hey Artrix, I know you got like a whole list of people you're trading with and I'm the last one on the list, but it's been like 3 days, man. Where's my drawing? I want my drawing right now. And when I do deliver, it usually takes the other side significantly longer to deliver as well. Not only that, but to be honest, usually the quality was mediocre. Unless the other party is actually a friend of yours and they actually give an iota of a shit about you, the other party just spends as little effort as they can to get you to draw that thing they want you to draw. With one notable exception. One guy actually delivered before I was able to ask him what I wanted him to draw for me. As it turns out, it was just something he wanted to draw anyways, and in the description it said it was a drawing for an art trade for about 6 or 7 or so people. Here's a bit of advice, that's not how art trades work. I also had people willing to fulfill their end of the trade by writing me a nice bit of fanfiction. Unfortunately, the fanfictions are usually about 3 paragraphs in length and basically consisted of them throwing together some franchises and hoping it would stick. And goddamn, a lot of these people are ungrateful bastards. If my drawing wouldn't meet their very specific wishes and hopes and dreams, they would bitch and whine and moan about it, or even worse, just flat out ignore me. But to be honest, it had its upsides. Close friends actually put in a little bit more of an effort and they actually, they want you to be happy. So they really enjoy being in this art trade situation. Also, this one time there was this guy asking me, of all people on this planet, to draw Sonic and Sally kissing. Oh dear God, there's so much wrong with that sentence. Needless to say, I don't really care much about shipping and I don't care much about Sonic, so what could possibly go wrong? So instead of the usual romantic lovey-dovey scene, what he got instead was Sally hanging off Sonic's head by the means of her mouth forming a vacuum on Sonic's head. Hilarity ensued. He was all pissed off, but I didn't care because most of my regular watchers were pretty amused by it, so it's all good. By now you probably noticed the primary reason why I gave up on art trades. It takes a lot of time to set up, it yields very mediocre results and it just causes a lot of unnecessary drama. And the attitude these people have towards you are just not worth the effort. They're not worth your time as an artist. Opposed to these nitwits, the sort of people that commission you to do art for them are usually the kind of people who genuinely like your art style and really want to see that applied to the thing they want you to draw. And like I said, it's not like it's a big life-sustaining income for me. It's a little extra to do what I like to do, and I do this work professionally, and for that I charge normal rates. These clients usually have the money to pay for it, and they usually make a lot of money from it. Economics 101 ITT. So the reason why I charge is really just to, raise the threshold and to cover some some base expenses. I mean, the stuff I use electricity and what have you. So, you know, it's only fair, I think. And most of my clients are more than willing to pay for it. So yeah, that much I'm willing to tell about commissions at this point. If you're watching this video and you want to commission me, just go to my DeviantArt, links down in the description. You can also just leave me a note on YouTube or whatever, and I'll get back to you in a timely manner. Anyways, what are we looking at right now in this here art and vlog show? One drawing is that of a original character named Wren. Wren is a dragon that can actually shapeshift into human form. She can almost do it perfectly, except for the fact that she still got them dragon ears, which are quite a prominent feature in our character design. Shoutout goes to Silla Noodle on DeviantArt for being the commissioner of this picture. She sent me some concept art before we started, of course, because I had no idea what this character looked like. And she actually did commission it to some other people in the past, so she showed me some of that concept art. And I basically took the info from there and put my twist to it, so to speak. Fun commission. It was a really nice excuse to go all girly and on this shit. I mean, it's got a lot of pastel type of colors, which I really like to implement. But it never really got, you know, obnoxiously girl. It's got more like a fantasy feel to it. And yes, I realize the irony of being the guy that does My Little Pony art almost all the time. But I'm talking about some other sort of girly here. We went back and forth discussing the pose she should have and what she'd be wearing and what have you. And yeah, and in the end it all came together. Especially since this was a new character for me and I basically have to make everything up at the spot. So yeah, it's kind of a hit and miss sometime, but in this case it worked out just fine. Also, I think it's one of those instances where the original's actually more endowed than this rendition. A lot of male artists are tempted to give their female characters large breasts. I mean, it's hardwired in our brain. We like to draw breasts. But judging from the various concept art I've seen, I thought that wouldn't be the appropriate approach here. And I sort of wanted to be gentle about it. So I think it really works here. It's modest. Also, I really like the way the face came out. I don't know what it is, but it's just really pleasing to the eye. It's hard to explain, but for some reason it feels like I really nailed the look on that face. So, well, here's a little applause for myself. Applause. Links in description, so click it if you're interested. Then there's the second commission piece entitled Duplicity. Duplicity is the title for the fanfiction written by Bullet25FXBX on DeviantArt and various other places. Essentially, it's a story about how Lyra meets up with her human counterpart. Because Lyra is all about them humans. He had a fairly specific layout in mind, and rightfully so. After all, it is the cover for his fanfiction and it does need to have a certain narrative to basically tell you what the story is about. Nonetheless, very fun commission to work on. It does include a humanization of Lyra, which I hadn't drawn in quite some time, and I never did a full body shot of human Lyra, so just for that it was a pretty interesting commission. Some things were pretty tricky, like I had to figure out how to show, you know, the human version of Ponyville and Ponyville. We're getting into some serious ponyception here. Some may argue that the human version of Ponyville might ended up looking a bit grim compared to Ponyville, but it was mostly done to, you know, convey some sort of contrast. It's not necessarily the way I imagine a human Ponyville to look like. Also, I really ended up liking the design for Lyra here, and by which I mean human Lyra. I always pictured her as to be sort of an every woman, Like, not overly frilly like a lot of ponies are, and, you know, more like a woman you might see on the street. Except for the hair color. I guess you need some serious chemicals to actually get your hair to have that sort of color, or you need to be in Japan, whichever one comes first. In any case, this is the design for Lyra to go to if I were ever to draw her again in the future, by which I mean the human version. The lightning bolt in the middle was kind of tricky because you got the whole thing going on with the backgrounds which are in clear daylight, so you sort of have to figure out a way to still have that lighting strike in there without it looking awkward. It took a few attempts to get the shape and the shade behind it right, but in the end it really serves its purpose, and it looks wicked cool awesome if I may say so myself. And yeah, I guess it was like the major stumbling block here, because the rest was pretty clear cut. Anyways, that's all I had to say about that deviation. Link is in the video description to check it out in its full glorious detail. Also, props to Bullet25FXBX for commissioning this piece. You've been an awesome client, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. With that said, we're now getting into that part of the art and vlog show where I actually talk about things that are not related to the thing that is being drawn right now. But actually there's not a lot to talk about right now. Equestria Girls won't be out in like 10 days, and not a lot of info has been released since then. So instead of bitching and moaning about that particular subject, I'm just gonna talk a bit about other things I like, because it's not all about ponies, seriously. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of really good shows coming out in 2011 and 2012 that almost made you think we're going to get into a new golden age of animation. But sadly, a lot of these shows got either cancelled. Well, actually, they all got cancelled except for one. One particular show that unfortunately got the axe for what is probably the dumbest reason any corporate entity can come up with is Symbionic Titan. It really was visually stunning, even though it was made on a shoestring budget apparently. Story was at the very least interesting, there was a lot of world building in there. Lots of attention to character building, like the characters are really fleshed out, and what I also noticed that the show actually allows you to sort of absorb what happens in the show, opposed to a lot of other shows that just keep throwing stuff at you all the time. We're throwing stuff at you! Stay entertained! Stay entertained! Watch our commercials! That is not to say that there weren't any cool, awesome, huge-ass robots and other awesome technology in there, and even some pretty implicit death scenes, and yeah, shit was awesome. And it still got cancelled. And it wasn't because of bad ratings, because it was doing great in the targeted demographic. It was doing just what it was supposed to do. No, from what I've heard, they cancelled it because they didn't have the toys to market. Because what the shit. Seriously, Cartoon Network, these kids are gobbling it up. It's like a huge diamond just laying on the ground ready to be picked up by you guys. You can just... It's there on a silver platter. Another interesting show that got cancelled was surprisingly, of all places, on Disney XD. I'm talking, of course, about Motorcity. Though I must admit that Motorcity had its faults. It seemed to focus a lot of its attention to the action or what have you, especially on, the parts involving cars. But, the story wasn't really all that grandiose, to be honest. It was set up to be big, like there was this whole civil war going on, but it never really felt like they were really going somewhere with it. You didn't really care about this whole war going on, because it wasn't even really sure how the citizens of Motorcity were suppressed and why Kane Co. wanted to take over Motorcity. It was just all backdrop just to show you wicked cool awesome car chases. But interesting enough, it had some really nice character animation, and it was kind of a shame that that wasn't really the focus of the show, but I thought it was a really interesting feature, and I really like to see Titmouse actually, you know, take that team to focus on another project that's more focused on characters opposed to cars. And it's interestingly enough, it was actually, the character animation was actually done in the United States opposed to a lot of other shows that are, you know, that outsource their animation overseas. But unfortunately, it got terrible time slots. It was pretty clear early on that Disney actually didn't want anything to do with the show, so they just put in the worst possible time slots and they just let it die. Fortunately, one of the shows I wanted to talk about is still ongoing, and season 2 is in production right now. And surprise, surprise, this one's done by Disney as well. I am, of course, talking about a show called Gravity Falls. Appealing character designs, great animation, nice combination of traditional frame-by-frame animation and CGI, lots and lots of world building, and a nice overarching plot in combination with nice smaller-ish stories. If you haven't seen it yet, seriously, go look it up. It's certainly worth your time and, you know, form an opinion of your own, but it's certainly worth checking out. With that, I'm going to end this here episode of the Artrix Vlog Show. Favorite, like and subscribe as usual. Also, I'll be streaming a lot in the upcoming days, so keep track of it by subscribing to my Twitter account. Links in the video description. I'll be announcing stream times and live streams on my Twitter, so you won't miss a thing. The video ends now. The end.